bit of an extended time off for your lads compared to most of the rest of the league. Has that done them well in terms of recovery and fitness?
Yeah, I think so. We had a couple of days off. Obviously, another bye for us. 10-day break, I think it is. So yeah, we've just worked normally how we have. A pretty consistent week. Had obviously a couple of days off with Christmas, and yeah, just looking forward to this game tomorrow night. It's going to be a big game. Always is, especially a New Year's clash. So looking forward to it.
Because I know it's nowhere near as long as the last break that you had to have with the international window and then the week off for Unite round. But you did talk about how that brought you down last time. Did you do anything different last time, or do you think the 10-day break's negligible enough to not matter?
I think so. I think so. Last time was 3 weeks between drinks. That's a hell of a long time. This one is about 10 days anyway. So try to recover a couple of the boys who had a couple of niggles, and basically, yeah, just we split a normal week leading up to this game and a couple of days off for Christmas. So it was absolutely fine.
Because I'd be really interested to know, mate, with Christmas, like, what sort of ground rules do the players have? Because, like, Christmas is a time of a lot of food, maybe a drink or two, and, you know, maybe a lot of time with family. Do they have, like, certain ground rules for Christmas, or do you just trust them to make their own decisions?
Most of them are adults, and so you have to put a lot of trust in them. And we spoke about being excessive, and this time of the year, yeah, can be quite excessive, but our guys were pretty good, and some of the young boys that are in our squad, they're still at home anyway and under the age. So, no, again, they're not fast rules, but we explain to them about the looking after yourself. At the end of the day, you're a professional footballer, and we had that conversation again today because we're going into a New Year's clash and a New Year's Eve scenario, but we also got a game 3 days later, and we're travelling the next morning. So, unfortunately, as a professional footballer, we sign up for the crappy moments like this. You know, you're missing out on a New Year's Eve with your mates, and or Christmas Day becomes a non-event for you. Last year we actually were able to spend a couple of days away through the New Year break, so that was fine. And this year is completely different. So unfortunately we sign up for these things, and we got to abide by rules, but also being professional. And being professional, and I know Mark Jackson spoke about that also the other day, that you need to prepare for your profession and you need to prepare for your next game. And I think it's clear there's very little in most games, and if you're unprepared, then you're going to get the slap in the face.
And I'll ask the requisite question I always ask you in these things, mate. Your injured attacking group, and how are they tracking in terms of return?
No, not good. Well, some bad news and also some good news. Those two boys, Lecky and Tills, are tracking well. Hopefully having Lex back within a couple of weeks. So that's a positive. And Tilio had rescan of his injury, and that's come up really well. So we're able to progress his next stage. He's still some weeks away anyway. Max Caputo is making big headways, so he's done a fair bit of running, absolutely zero pain. So that's also 2 to 3 weeks, I would say, if things continue to go well. Unfortunately, we had the issue with Jimmy Jago before the victory game. And he's going to be out for quite a while with a Achilles tendon injury. And Andreas also will be missing this week because he's had a couple of significant stompings on his foot last week in the victory game, and he hasn't been able to train. He hasn't been able to put on a football boot, and he hasn't been able to do a hell of a lot of running. He hasn't joined us in any of our tactical work this week. So we've had to give him just a couple more days to get him ready for the next game. So he definitely won't be in tomorrow, and by all accounts, he should be fine for the game on Friday against Wellington.
Well, I guess, mate, particularly with Jago, that's another blow to your playing stocks. Less depth in the midfield.
Yep.
Does that suddenly become an area where you and Pedge and Michael are maybe looking at January 16 and looking if you can bring in an injury replacement?
Yeah, we're looking at all options of the possibilities, and that's an ongoing discussion with Michael, Pedge, and also CEO Brad. The window doesn't open to the 16th, but we're already trying to get our heads together and seeing what the situation is and what the availability is of trying to bring someone in. In saying that, we probably have the opportunity now to have a couple of younger kids again come into the squad for this weekend. So, yeah, it is what it is. We've had wretched luck with the injuries, and not so much soft tissue injuries. I think we've only had 3 soft tissue injuries, which is pretty good. But it's all those other fractured ankles, the couple of knees, the syndesmosis, all the ankle injuries that that you can't prepare for that. It's just one of those things. So they're the ones that have really hurt us.
Because I guess Jago being out opens the door for Zane Schreiber to get a consistent run of minutes in that midfield if he continues to earn his place in the side, of course. But I know he came to City with a lot of pedigree and a lot of excitement around him. What level do you hope that he can take his game at in the absence of Jago?
I think not just with Zane, but I think most of the young players, I think the more they play, the more resilient they get, the more experience they get. Their ceiling can always increase. When you've got situations where, they play one game and you take them out the team, and then 3 weeks later they need to play again. Sometimes it's hard to get continuity. So he's got an opportunity now to have quite a few games back to back, but he's also learning the game. He's learning about his body. He's learning how to work hard. All these things. He's learning how to work hard in the gym, for example, as well. So all these things, you don't have the complete package yet, but he has enough quality, and he's a smart footballer that in time we know that he's actually going to be quite a good footballer. I think I said it to you on a number of occasions. We always, especially with the young ones, we always want the finished product, but unfortunately it takes time. It's exciting. It's exciting for the club. If you look at our squad, we've got a nice mix of experience and a lot of younger players who are just coming into the professional setup for the first time. So they're going to need a little bit of time. But if you keep them all together and they're able to play certain minutes and games over a period of the next couple of years, generally you should have a nice young group that bodes well for the future.
And with Andreas Kuhn not being available for the Mariners game, I guess what do you do in that attacking third? Obviously, Jonathan will have to play an even bigger role, but does somebody? I think Kevin Cavian came on for Andreas in the derby. Does he come in line for what I think would be a first senior start?
Yeah, we've got a couple of options that we're looking at, and we've looked at during the course of this week's tactical sessions, and we'll just have another little look at it this morning once we go out there before we make a final decision.
For you, Vinny, mate, I know you've got experience coaching youth international teams before, but this must be a real challenge for you with so many young players being thrust into starting roles and having to manage that and manage the particular needs of young players and simultaneously senior players at the same time. How are you finding it?
It certainly is challenging, but we always want your best possible team to be starting every week, and unfortunately we haven't been able to have that. But in saying that, it's part of the job is nurturing the younger players as well, and they need time. We always we talk about, the instant success, instant results. Yes, and that's true, and we always say yes, it's a results-driven business and all those type of things. But we need to be a little bit patient, and that's part of the job. It's safe when you have your most senior players on the pitch, but sometimes you're not going to get results when you've even got your your most experienced players. So it's about for us right now. It's a bit of a mix, and it's exciting. And those young players who have those opportunities have to think that it's an exciting time for them as well. That once they come onto the pitch, they got to give 100% and do whatever they possibly can to keep intensity, keep the shape of the way we want to play, and they're understanding that more and more as the season goes on. And I think we made a conscious effort in the pre-season that all our work that we've done, we've done so much rotating in terms of the younger kids coming in and out of our tactical sessions as well, and I think that's been important. So the only downside of that is that they're not having much. They're having a lot of training, but not a lot of game time. But some of them now, like Mamedi, for example, having more minutes than they probably ever thought was possible. So it's just an ongoing process, challenging but exciting at the same time.
And the Mariners, mate, obviously, as you touched on, some choice words from Mike Jackson for his squad after the Auckland game. Do you expect a response from them?
Absolutely. I wouldn't expect anything else. As I said, there's so small differences between every team. You can have a good day, you can have a bad day, but generally the Mariners are always super competitive. They're strong. Their culture's always been very, very good. It's always a tough game going there, and doubly is the fact that it's a New Year's Eve clash. So the fans are going to probably come out in droves, and there's always a bit of a spectacle on that night anyway. So it's definitely going to be challenging, but we need to turn up with the right attitude. Joey, yes, we're probably a little bit undermanned, but we've been undermanned for most of the season anyway. And once our attitude is right, our intensity is right, the individual looking after his own job, his own responsibilities, and then that should create, if that guy is doing his job properly, that should create the team doing their individual roles as a group in a much better way. So for us, it's always going to be making sure that we have the right attitude going into a game like this.